College football has always been a chaotic sport. Upsets has always been a big part of what makes college football such a great sport that it is. And I don't know where to rank UCLA's upset over Penn State as far as all-time upsets in college football go. Now, I'm only 23 years old, and I've been watching this sport for only 14 years. So I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have been watching this sport for a lot longer than I have. Where do you rank UCLA's Penn State upset as far as all-time upsets? Because to me, it has to be second behind when Appalachian State upset Michigan week 1 of the 2007 season. And a close second behind that has to be when in 2018, Jeff Braun and Purdue completely dominated and bullied Ohio State. That was an upset that kind of was a little bit like this UCLA one, but not quite exactly, because Purdue was a solid program, but they were still kind of viewed more so like how Vandy is viewed in the SEC, and they didn't really have the respect that they had near the tail end of Jeff Braun's tenure there at that moment. So when that upset occurred, it completely threw college football for a loop. The playoff picture was completely thrown in disarray. And then the honorable mention is probably when Gus Malzahn, I forgot what year this was, but he beat both Alabama and Georgia when they were the number 1 and 2 teams in the country. So unpredictability has always been a huge part of college football, but the 2025 college football has been the most unpredictable season ever. For one, you have a pandemic of regressing quarterback play across the nation. Quarterbacks that were supposed to take that next step up, that were hyped up as first-round draft picks like Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier, have greatly regressed. And neither one of those guys looks like they're going to be a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, nor are they going to be first-round picks in the 26th NFL Draft. And when you look at who some of the elite teams or some of the good teams are at the moment, like Miami, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, what they all have in common is consistent quarterback play. And in the past, you could overcome having bad quarterback play if you were a team like Iowa. You were good on special teams, had a great run game, and a phenomenal defense. You used to be able to have a team that could be good enough that could elevate a subpar quarterback, but no longer, because name, image, and likeness in the transfer portal have made it a lot harder for good teams to not be held back by inconsistent quarterback play. Because now when the SEC and the Big Ten, you have more parity in these two conferences than ever before, because the talent gap between the good, the average, and the ball teams is smaller than it's ever been. And oftentimes what decides those one-possession games is the team that has the better quarterback play. And if you don't have that better quarterback play, then you damn sure better have an all-world defense. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have a defense that's good enough to make up for limitations at quarterback. So when you're in the SEC and the Big Ten, and you're in the conference that's oversaturated with the majority of college football's best coaches, having subpar quarterback play is not going to get you that far. And that's why it's easy to see big drop-offs year to year. That's why when I did my playoff predictions and everybody was like, why don't you have Penn State? Why don't you have Texas? Because the way the playoffs is structured, we're not going to continue to get the same teams over and over again, because with the transfer portal and NIL making the talent gap smaller between teams like Alabama and Vanderbilt, if you don't have consistent quarterback play, you could go from being a team that was 1 game shy of the national championship to missing the playoffs altogether. Perfect example, Texas. Texas thought that Arch Manning was going to be the quarterback who could finally truly bring back Texas football. He was supposed to elevate this program to new heights. Quinn Ewers helped get the ball back rolling. He got Texas back relevant from a national standpoint. But Arch Manning was supposed to pick up the ball and completely take over the game with it. And instead, he has hindered Texas. And Texas is going to end up finishing this season 8-4, 9-3, and possibly missing out on the college football playoffs due to how much of a disappointment that Arch Manning's play has been this season. Look at what happened to Oklahoma last year versus this season. Last year, they had no quarterback play at all. They kicked Dylan Gabriel to the curb. He goes to Oregon. They replace him with Jackson Arnold. He doesn't work out. Michael Hawkins doesn't work out. And then you end up finishing the season barely being bowl eligible and losing to a service academy in your bowl game. So what did Brent Venables do this season? He said that I'm not going to allow incompetent quarterback play to hold my team back again this season. I'm going to go into the transfer portal, get the best quarterback available, and get his offensive coordinator to follow him along down to Norman. And you see how better of a team Oklahoma is. You cannot win in college football anymore just having these basic game manager quarterbacks. You got to have a quarterback that's going to be able to step up and make those big throws in crunch time. The difference in Florida beating Texas was that DJ Lagway was able to be the more dependable quarterback in that game. Arch Manning couldn't hit a fly to save his life in that game. He was better running the football than he was throwing it. If I didn't know any better, Arch Manning kind of looks somewhat like a running back because he doesn't throw the football really good. You might as well just run Wildcat with Arch Manning all game long because the passing game is really spotty with him. With the amount of parity that we now see in the SEC, with the talent gap diminishing between the top teams in the conference and the worst team in the conference, then you have regressing quarterback play to go along with that. It's going to result in even more upsets than what we've seen in years past. UCLA's upset over Penn State isn't going to be the only despicable loss that we see a team with high expectations entering this season have. You're going to see more teams suffer more gross losses like Penn State did last week due to how we have started to see a shift between the talent discrepancy of these teams. Years ago, you never even entertained the idea of Vanderbilt being Alabama's Super Bowl. But with how Vanderbilt handled Alabama last year, it damaged the reputation of that program. So this year, this Vanderbilt game was a lot more personal. And even though Alabama did backdoor cover, Vanderbilt still, for the most part, was handling up. Normally, you play Vanderbilt, and it's one of those get-right games. It's get your numbers up kind of games. You know, when you played Vanderbilt 8 years ago, you're going to put up all the stats that your heart desired, and you're going to have a lot of highlights to post on social media the next day. No longer is Vanderbilt a highlight game for anybody anymore. Even Northwestern has gotten a little bit more competitive than what they've been in years past. NIL and the transfer portal and regressing quarterback play has made the 2025 college football season hard to predict, to the point you're making a huge gamble when you bet money on these games. I know that Vegas is rubbing their hands like Birdman right now for a big grin on their face with the amount of money that they came up off UCLA's upset over Penn State. I'm estimating that they won at least 80 to 90 million off of that game. And when you include Florida's upset over Texas, Vegas probably pocketed somewhat between 150 mil to 200 million with the upsets that we saw transpire in week 6. And you're going to continue to see this trend throughout this season progress as you see more and more teams start to show us that maybe they're not as good as what we thought. Or maybe the teams that we thought were going to be god-awful aren't as bad as what we initially expected they would be.